James, I need you to fix the washing machine. That was the first thing Patricia said to me that morning. No, good morning. No, how did you sleep? Just a direct order, delivered with the same enthusiasm as someone announcing a tax increase. Now, let's be clear. I am not a handyman. I can change a light bulb, I can reset the Wi-Fi, and I can pretend to know what's wrong with the car while nodding at the mechanic. But a washing machine? That is enemy territory. I glanced over at her from the couch, where I was enjoying my weekend coffee. Patricia, I don't know how to fix a washing machine. You can watch a video. I could also watch a video on performing heart surgery, but I don't think you'd want me operating on you afterward. Patricia rolled her eyes. Fine, I'll call someone. And that was that. The entire emotional depth of our marriage, summed up in one exchange. There was a time when Patricia used to laugh at my jokes. Now, she just powered through them like she was trying to complete a marathon of tolerating me. The repair guy showed up an hour later. I was sitting in the kitchen, reading the paper, yes, an actual, physical newspaper, because some traditions deserve to be preserved, when I heard Patricia's voice, suddenly higher, suddenly lighter, like a teenager answering the phone when her crush calls. Thanks so much for coming on such short notice. I turned the page. This was already shaping up to be more entertaining than anything in the sports section. No problem, came the response. Male voice. Confident. The kind of confidence that suggested he had a full toolbox and actually knew how to use it. I peeked over my paper. The guy standing in our laundry room had the look of someone who could lift a washing machine with one hand while drinking a protein shake with the other. He had the beard of a man who spent his weekends chopping wood for a fireplace he probably built himself. I immediately hated him. Patricia, on the other hand, looked like she had just remembered how to smile. It had been so long since I'd seen her show actual enthusiasm that for a moment, I thought she might be having a medical episode. How long do you think it'll take? She asked, leaning in just a little too much. The repair guy smiled. Not too long. Maybe 30 minutes. Oh, you must be really good with your hands. I nearly choked on my coffee. Look, I'm not the jealous type. I'm not one of those guys who goes through his wife's phone or accuses her of making eyes at the cashier when she asks for a receipt. But I do have eyes, and right now, my eyes were watching my wife toss her hair like she was in a shampoo commercial. I could have let it go. I could have just gone back to my paper and ignored it. But where's the fun in that? I folded my newspaper neatly and walked over. So, what seems to be the problem? I asked, as if I had any idea how washing machines worked. The repair guy, his name tag said, Ryan, gave me the polite but dismissive look of a man who knew I was useless in this situation. Looks like something got jammed in the pump. Shouldn't be too hard to fix. Oh, good. You know, Patricia's been having trouble with things getting jammed lately, I said, smiling at my wife. Like the garage door. And the bathroom window. And, oh, what was that other thing, honey? Oh, right, your schedule. You've been so busy lately. Patricia shot me a warning glance. Ryan, blissfully unaware, nodded. Yeah, I see that all the time. These things happen when you don't keep up with maintenance. I leaned against the doorframe. Oh, believe me, Ryan, I know all about things breaking down from lack of maintenance. Patricia cleared her throat. James, don't you have something to do? I do, actually. I grinned. But this is just so fascinating. You know, watching a real man at work. Ryan, still unaware he had become an unwilling participant in our passive-aggressive domestic drama, went back to fixing the machine. Patricia turned to me with a tight smile. Why don't you go pick up the dry cleaning? I took a sip of my coffee. Why? Ryan seems so good with his hands. Maybe he could iron a few shirts while he's at it. Patricia exhaled through her nose. James, I knew I was pushing it, but honestly, I was having fun. Ryan finished the repair in record time, which I had to admit was impressive. Patricia walked him to the door, thanking him with all the warmth and gratitude of a woman who had just been rescued from a deserted island. After he left, I turned to her. Nice guy. Very talented. Patricia gave me a look. Are you done? Oh, I don't know. I mused. I just find it interesting. I mean, when I need something fixed, you tell me to figure it out. But when Ryan comes in, suddenly you're all admiration and compliments. She grabbed a glass of water and took a slow sip, buying herself time. Are you implying something? Not at all. I smiled. Just making an observation. Patricia set the glass down and walked past me, but not before muttering, you should get a hobby. The thing is, I had one now. Watching Patricia. Because something was off. Not just with Ryan, but in general. The way she had looked at him wasn't the way you look at a stranger. There was something familiar in it, something rehearsed. And then there was the washing machine itself. It wasn't broken yesterday. I knew that for a fact because I had done laundry the night before. So either it had mysteriously decided to malfunction overnight, or Patricia had wanted an excuse to call Ryan. And that was interesting. Patricia had a very particular way of being guilty. She didn't get nervous. She didn't stutter. She didn't act overly nice to make up for whatever she had done. No, Patricia's guilt had one very specific symptom. She got efficient. Whenever she was up to something, she suddenly became the most productive person on the planet. Laundry done, house spotless, emails answered, schedules arranged. It was like her brain went into overdrive, determined to complete every single task as if she were trying to distract herself from, oh, I don't know, some recent moral failure. Which was why, the morning after Ryan the repair guy left, Patricia woke up at 6 a.m. and immediately started vacuuming. At first, I thought maybe she had lost her mind. Normal people wake up, brush their teeth, drink coffee. They do not wake up and decide that every dust particle in the house must be eliminated before the sun has fully risen. But then I remembered, Patricia only acted like this when she had something to cover up. So, naturally, I sat back and watched the show. She scrubbed the kitchen counters like they had personally insulted her. She folded laundry with the precision of a military drill instructor. By noon, the house looked like it was ready to be put on the market, and Patricia had the intense, slightly manic expression of a woman who had no idea what to do now that she had run out of things to clean. "You okay?" I asked, watching her straighten an already straight stack of magazines. "Fine. You sure? You've reorganized that stack 3 times. She gave me a look. "I like things in order." "No kidding. Should I be worried that you're about to alphabetize the furniture?" Patricia rolled her eyes and walked out of the room. I smiled. This was fun. Now, at this point, a normal husband might have decided to just ask what was going on. But I am not a normal husband. A normal husband might believe in open communication and healthy discussions. I, on the other hand, believe in getting answers the fun way. And what could be more fun than playing detective? Step 1 was simple: Patricia's schedule. Now, I'd always known Patricia was a routine person. She had her gym days, her grocery days, her book club nights. Every week was structured down to the minute. And yet, lately, there had been gaps. Strange ones. Extra hours spent, running errands, sudden late-night meetings, an increasing number of days where she was just not around. But there was one event in particular that caught my interest. A charity event she had attended last weekend. Patricia wasn't a charity person. I'm not saying she was a terrible person, well, not yet. But she wasn't exactly the type to spend her Saturday night helping the less fortunate. And yet, last weekend, she had been gone for hours at some fundraiser I had never heard of, wearing a dress I had never seen, attending with people I had never met. And when I had asked about it, "Oh, nothing special," she had said. "Just a work thing." Work thing, my foot. So, I did what any man with a healthy sense of curiosity and a complete disregard for his wife's privacy would do. I checked our shared calendar. She had marked it down. Fundraiser. 6 p.m. Private venue. Private venue? Interesting. Now, unfortunately, Patricia had the common sense not to write the actual address, which meant I had to do a little more digging. So I checked her email. Now, before anyone gets all high and mighty about trust and respect, let me remind you, Patricia vacuumed the house at 6 in the morning. Clearly, trust was already out the window. It didn't take long to find something useful. A confirmation email from the charity. Except it wasn't from a charity at all. It was from a country club, one I had never heard of. I clicked on the email. "Thank you for your reservation. We look forward to your visit. Please be advised that guests must follow club etiquette." Club etiquette? I knew exactly what kind of place this was. It wasn't a charity event. It was a members-only place. The kind where people didn't go to help the less fortunate. They went to network. To meet people. To enjoy exclusive company. Patricia, who hated networking, had spent an entire evening here? Sure. And I was the King of England. I leaned back in my chair. This was getting good. Now, I could have just asked her about it. But why ruin the fun? Instead, I waited. That evening, Patricia came home, looking suspiciously calm for someone who had spent the day battling imaginary dust. "I'm going out with the girls tomorrow night," she announced. "Book club." "Oh," I said. "The famous book club." She ignored my sarcasm. "Which book are you guys discussing?" I asked, purely for my own entertainment. Patricia paused. "Something new." Oh, I love something new. Great author. Real page turner. She sighed. It's just a casual meeting, James. I smiled. Of course. Enjoy your casual meeting. She left the room. I pulled out my phone. Now, you might be wondering, James, how are you going to find out what she's really doing? Simple. I was going to follow her. Because, really, what kind of husband would I be if I didn't show a little interest in my wife's hobbies? Patricia was not a stupid woman. That was the problem. Stupid people are easy to catch. They leave clues, they slip up, they get reckless. Patricia, on the other hand, was careful. She didn't forget to delete messages. She didn't leave suspicious receipts lying around. If she was cheating, she was doing it with the kind of efficiency that would have made the CIA jealous. But she had one fatal flaw. She still believed she was smarter than me. That was her mistake. The next evening, Patricia got ready for her book club. She dressed normal, jeans, a blouse, nothing dramatic. Just casual enough to make it seem like she wasn't trying. Classic tactic. People only try that hard when they have something to hide. Don't wait up, she said, grabbing her bag. I smiled. Wouldn't dream of it. And then she left. I waited exactly 5 minutes before I followed her. Now, I'd never tailed someone before. It always looked so easy in movies. Guy puts on a hat, ducks behind a newspaper, blends into the crowd. Turns out, in real life, it's a little harder when you're following your own wife through town without looking like a complete idiot. For the first 10 minutes, everything seemed normal. She drove like she always did, steady, controlled. No sudden turns, no hesitation. Then, right before the freeway entrance, she made a turn she never made. I grinned. And there it was. The moment where she officially proved she was up to something. She kept driving, straight through town, past the usual shopping centers, the normal restaurants. Eventually, she pulled into a parking lot. Not some dark, shady alley, not some secret hideout. No, Patricia, in all her brilliance, had chosen the most boring place possible. A hardware store. I watched as she parked, got out, and walked inside. Now, I may not be a handyman, but I knew one thing for sure: Patricia had never in her life voluntarily entered a hardware store. She was up to something. I got out of my car and followed her in, keeping a safe distance. The place was massive. Shelves stacked to the ceiling, all filled with things I didn't know the names of. Patricia moved quickly, heading straight for the back. I pretended to look at a display of power tools, casually glancing in her direction. And then I saw him. Ryan. The washing machine repair guy. The man who, just yesterday, had been in my house, flirting with my wife under the excuse of fixing an appliance that wasn't even broken. He was standing near the lumber section, arms crossed, waiting. Patricia walked right up to him. And then, she did something interesting. She didn't hug him. She didn't kiss him. She handed him an envelope. I blinked. This was not what I expected. Ryan took the envelope, opened it, and nodded. Patricia said something. I couldn't hear what. Ryan responded. She shook her head, looking frustrated. He sighed, stuffed the envelope in his jacket, and then, without another word, walked away. Patricia stood there for a second, then turned and left through the side exit. I waited a few seconds before following Ryan, because now I really needed to know what was going on. He walked out to his truck, got in, and drove off. I followed. He drove across town, taking a route that suggested he was in no hurry. Eventually, he pulled into a small, old strip mall. Not a place you'd go for fun. Just a few rundown stores, a dry cleaner, and a law office. Ryan parked, got out, and walked inside. A law office? Now, I was no detective, but even I could put the pieces together. Patricia had handed him an envelope. Ryan had taken it and gone straight to a lawyer. There was only one logical conclusion. Patricia wasn't cheating. She was planning something else. Something worse. And I had a feeling I wasn't going to like what it was. Patricia had underestimated me. That was clear now. She had assumed I wouldn't notice, wouldn't ask questions, wouldn't follow her. That was her mistake. And mistakes, when made by people who think they're smarter than you, are the most satisfying kind. I sat in my car outside the law office, watching Ryan disappear inside. The envelope she had given him sat heavy in my mind. There were a few possibilities here, none of them good. First possibility, Patricia was divorcing me. Second possibility, Patricia was involved in something shady that required legal help. Third possibility, Patricia was laundering money for the Russian mob. Okay, maybe not the third. But at this point, I wasn't ruling anything out. Now, a normal person might have just asked her what was going on. But normal was overrated. Besides, if she was lying to me, why should I give her the benefit of the doubt? No, I was going to figure this out my way. And if Patricia was planning something? Well, she wasn't the only one. I had some preparations to make. Step one was simple information. The lawyer's office Ryan had walked into wasn't some giant law firm. It was a small, independent practice. Which meant one thing. If Ryan was meeting with someone here, it was personal. I walked in, keeping my expression as neutral as possible. A woman at the front desk looked up. "Do you have an appointment?" "Actually," I said, "I think my wife does." "Patricia Reynolds." She said she had something scheduled, but I forgot the time. The woman blinked. "Oh, one moment." She clicked around on her computer. I don't see a Patricia Reynolds. Are you sure she booked here?" "Interesting." I gave her my best confused husband look. "That's weird. Maybe she used her maiden name." The receptionist hesitated, then typed something else. "Patricia Lane," she said. And there it was. Patricia had booked something under her maiden name. Why? Because she didn't want me to know. I forced a chuckle. "That's the one." "Sorry, she still uses her old name sometimes." "What time was it again?" The receptionist glanced at the schedule. "Looks like she had an appointment last week. But there's nothing else booked." "Last week?" I nodded. "Thanks. That helps a lot." I left the office and got back in my car, my mind racing. Patricia had met with this lawyer a week ago. And now, today, she had handed Ryan an envelope. So, what did that mean? The only way to find out was to get my hands on that envelope. Which meant it was time to get creative. Step 2. Getting into Ryan's truck. Now, I'm not a criminal. I don't break into places. But I do know that people are incredibly bad at locking their vehicles. Ryan's truck was parked in the lot, and he had gone inside with no sign of coming back out anytime soon. I casually walked over and checked the driver's side door. Locked? Of course. I moved to the passenger side. Unlocked. Beautiful. I slid inside, keeping an eye on the law office entrance. I didn't have much time. Ryan's truck was exactly what I expected. Messy, filled with tools, fast food wrappers, and paperwork that looked like it hadn't been touched in weeks. I started digging through the front seat. No envelope. Glove compartment? I popped it open. A flashlight, some old receipts, a half-empty bottle of aspirin. And an envelope. Gotcha. I grabbed it, opened it, and pulled out the contents. Cash. At least a couple thousand, neatly stacked. And a note. "Keep this quiet. More later." That was it. No signature, no details. Just a vague, suspicious message. I stared at it for a second, then stuffed everything back exactly as I found it. If Patricia was paying Ryan, I needed to know why. And I had a feeling that the answer wasn't going to be good. Time for step 3. Step 3. Making Patricia regret underestimating me. By the time I got home, I had a plan. Patricia had money to throw around? Fine. I'd make her think it was disappearing. Patricia wanted to sneak around? Fine. I'd turn the tables. That night, I casually mentioned, "Oh, by the way, I had a call from a lawyer today." Patricia froze for half a second. "A lawyer?" "Yeah. Weird, right?" Said he wanted to discuss something. But I didn't recognize the name, so I told him I'd call back. She forced a smile. "Probably a scam." "Probably," I said, watching her carefully. "But just in case, I think I'll follow up tomorrow." Patricia went silent. Good. Because I wasn't following up with any lawyer. I was going to follow her. And this time, when I caught her in whatever mess she was tangled up in, I was going to make sure she paid for it. Patricia had always been good at making herself the victim. It was her greatest talent. She never took responsibility for anything. If she forgot to pay a bill, it was because the system was confusing. If she snapped at someone, it was because she was under a lot of stress. If she lost something, it was because someone moved it. Nothing was ever her fault. So when I walked into the house that night, already knowing exactly what I had to do, I wasn't surprised to find Patricia sitting on the couch, looking like she had just received the worst news of her life. "Oh, James," she said, voice trembling. "I don't even know where to start." I took my time hanging up my coat. "Start wherever you want." She let out a dramatic sigh. "I've been struggling with something, and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you. This was going to be good." I sat down across from her, arms crossed. "Go on." She wiped at her perfectly dry eyes. "I have a friend who's in trouble. A serious situation. She came to me for help, and I felt like I had to do something." I tilted my head. "A friend?" "Yes." She nodded quickly. "She's going through a really, really tough time. She got involved with someone she shouldn't have, and it's become this whole mess. She asked me for money, and I didn't tell you because I knew you'd be upset. I stared at her. You're saying you took thousands of dollars from our account for a friend? Patricia's voice softened. I was just trying to help. You gave the money to Ryan. Her expression barely changed. A flicker of something quickly smothered. He was just the middleman. It wasn't for him. And the lawyer? I pressed. What does your friend need a lawyer for? She blinked rapidly, as if she hadn't anticipated me asking that. She made some bad choices. She's trying to fix things. I was just being supportive. I sat back, exhaling slowly. And what's your friend's name? Silence. It lasted just a second too long. Then Patricia forced a weak smile. James, does it matter? She came to me in confidence. Oh, it matters. I smiled back. Because if this friend of yours really exists, I'd love to meet her. I'd love to sit down and have a nice, long conversation about why my wife is secretly handing over thousands of dollars in cash to some guy who just happened to show up in our house to fix an appliance that was never broken. Patricia's lip quivered. I can't believe you're being like this. There it is, I said. There's the guilt trip. I was wondering when you'd pull that card. Her face twisted. I'm telling you the truth, James. No, I said, leaning forward. You're telling me the version of the truth that you think I'm stupid enough to believe. Her voice broke. Why are you attacking me? I've been dealing with so much, and now you're sitting here, treating me like some kind of criminal. You are a criminal, I said cheerfully. You stole from our account. You lied to me. You've been sneaking around, paying off Ryan for something, meeting with a lawyer behind my back. And now, when I call you out, you're playing the wounded, misunderstood wife. Did I miss anything? Patricia's mouth opened and closed. Then, finally, she dropped the act. Her shoulders slumped. Fine. You want the truth. I gestured grandly. I've been waiting all night. She let out a sharp breath. I was trying to protect you. I burst out laughing. That's the angle you're going with? Patricia's eyes flashed. You think this is funny? A little. She exhaled harshly. I was trying to make this as painless as possible. Painless for who? For both of us, she snapped. James, you have to understand. Things haven't been the same for a long time. I sat back. Here we go. She frowned. What? The speech. I waved a hand. That we've been growing apart, I didn't know how to tell you. I was confused speech. Go ahead. Give me the full monologue. Patricia looked away. I don't expect you to understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. You wanted to leave, but you didn't want to deal with the consequences. So instead of having an actual conversation, you went behind my back, paid off Ryan, and met with a lawyer. What was the plan, Patricia? You were going to have me served with divorce papers out of nowhere? She said nothing. I shook my head. You're a piece of work. Patricia's eyes filled with fresh tears. James, please. We don't have to do this. I raised an eyebrow. We don't have to do what? She reached for my hand. Fight like this. Let's just take a breath. We can figure this out. I pulled my hand away. You already figured it out. You decided I wasn't worth a conversation. You made the decision without me. You don't get to suddenly change tactics now. She flinched. No. I stood up. We're not doing this. Patricia looked up at me, eyes wide. James, you had your chance, I said. I was going to wait. I was going to let you dig your hole a little deeper. But I think I've seen enough. She swallowed. What are you going to do? I smiled. Oh, don't worry. You'll find out soon enough. And with that, I walked out. Because Patricia had spent months playing her little game. Now, it was my turn. Patricia liked to think she was clever. That was her whole problem. She didn't lie like an amateur who panicked and blurted out the first thing that came to mind. No, she lied with confidence. With structure. She made sure her stories had just enough detail to sound plausible, just enough emotion to make herself the victim, and just enough fake concern to make you second-guess your own instincts. And that was why I knew I couldn't just walk away. If I left it up to her, she'd rewrite history. She'd paint herself as the suffering wife who tried her best, while I was the cold, unreasonable husband who just couldn't understand. No, Patricia didn't deserve a simple breakup. She deserved to feel every ounce of humiliation she had been hoping to avoid. So, I got to work. First, I locked her out of our joint bank account. She had already been sneaking money out, so I made sure she wouldn't get another cent. I transferred everything into an account under my name alone, shut down her access, and left just enough for her to notice something was wrong. Then, I emailed our accountant and let him know that, Moving forward, Patricia's spending should be monitored closely because of ongoing legal proceedings. Didn't specify what kind. Just enough to put her under the microscope. Next, I called Ryan. "Hey, buddy," I said when he picked up. "Just wanted to check in. You know, man to man." Ryan hesitated. About what?" "Oh, just about the cash my wife gave you. You know, the envelope? The one that I saw you take straight to a lawyer." Silence. "Yeah," I continued. "I was just wondering how you're enjoying the money. I assume it's good pay for whatever Patricia roped you into." "Listen, man." "No, you listen." I leaned back in my chair. "I'm not calling to threaten you. I don't care what she promised you, and I don't care what you thought you were getting out of this. But I do care about one thing, making sure Patricia doesn't get to walk away from this clean." Ryan sighed. "Look, I don't want to be involved in your drama." "Too late." I smiled. "You cashed the check." More silence. I gave him a few seconds to squirm. "Here's the deal," I said. "I don't need anything from you. I just wanted to let you know that Patricia's little plan, it's falling apart. And if I were you, I'd make sure you weren't standing too close when it all comes crashing down." Then, I hung up. Finally, I made sure Patricia's entire social circle knew what was happening. Now, I could have done it the dramatic way, some big confrontation, some explosive reveal, but that wasn't my style. I preferred something quieter, more elegant. So, I sent out an email. To her family. To her friends. To a few of our mutual acquaintances. Subject line: a personal update. "Hey everyone. I just wanted to let you all know that Patricia and I are separating. It's been a difficult decision, but unfortunately, trust is an important part of any relationship, and once it's gone, it's hard to rebuild. Patricia has been dealing with a lot, so I'd appreciate if you could all support her during this time, especially since she went through all the effort of secretly hiring a lawyer and moving money around behind my back. I imagine she's going to need all the sympathy she can get. Best, James." Within an hour, my phone was blowing up. Some messages were confused. Others were supportive. A few were Patricia's friends trying to defend her, but I didn't bother responding. Patricia herself called twice. I let it go to voicemail. She came home in a panic. "What did you do?" "Oh, nothing much," I said, sipping my coffee. "Just let people know the truth." Her hands clenched into fists. "You're being cruel." I grinned. "Cruel would have been letting you get away with it." She looked around, like she was trying to find some way to fix this. Some way to twist the situation back in her favor. But there was no way out. I had already pulled the rug out from under her. She was the one who had planned to leave me. She just hadn't planned on looking bad while doing it. And now? Now, she had no choice. She grabbed her purse, turned toward the door, then stopped. "You're going to regret this." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh." She glared at me. "You think you won, James. But one day, you're going to realize that you just ruined the best thing you ever had." I let out a short laugh. "Patricia, the best thing I ever had was peace of mind. And thanks to you, I lost that months ago." Her face twisted. For a second, I thought she might say something else. Then, she turned and walked out. And just like that, Patricia's game was over. The house was quiet. For the first time in months, I could breathe again. I leaned back, smiling to myself. Not because I had one, but because Patricia had finally learned what it felt like to lose. Thanks for watching. Rate the story in the comments. Subscribe to the channel